So what we're going to explore in the next short little while is this assumes that you all have some sort of daily beverage, be it a morning tea or coffee, or maybe it's an afternoon pick-me-up, maybe it's a sports drink, anything like this. We're going to cover off a cold drink and a warm beverage and how to upgrade them, how to add in what I like to describe as superfoods, super herbs for greater energy, greater immunity. My name is Malcolm Saunders, and it's my mission to help you learn how to craft your own food and medicine. And I love this idea, this realm we're going to talk about of superfoods, herbs, medicinal mushrooms. We're going to chat lots, super informal. So anytime you got a question, just raise your hand. It's all good. But just to start, we're going to cover off, we've got to set a foundation here. We're going to talk about the 4 food groups. So apart from our friends that are from out of the country here, just newly to Canada, those of you probably raised with the 4 food groups, that's not what we're going to talk about. Right? So in Canada, we have this idea of the food guide, the food pyramid, all these, it's something that's been around. It was actually an invention around the World War time to kind of help Canadians navigate those times. And it's been updated throughout the years. Not the most helpful, basically. I remember reading an article in the Calgary Herald where it talked about, Canadians are beginning to question whether this is really working for us. And I think we can go beyond that. So I'd like to introduce you to what I call the natural food guide. A lot of us are confused around food and nutrition. In our modern day and age, we're inundated with lots of different opinions, science, maybe not science, headlines, etc. And it's like, what are we supposed to eat, right? There is a natural food guide. There are 4 food groups. You can consider them the kingdoms that humans have been eating throughout time in every culture around the world as a foundation. And we're going to use that as the basis for our exploration. So we have plants, pretty obvious, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to go deep into each kingdom, right? So just very briefly, it's plants, it's animals, it's bacteria, and it's fungi. These are our 4 food groups. This is what humans eat. This is the natural diet of humans. We eat from all these different kingdoms. If you had said this to me, as a 8 or 9-year-old, you're in school, you learn the 4 food groups, and if you presented that to me, I would have been, sure, okay, well, let me think about it. My parents are British, so you can imagine the type of home cuisine we had at home, meat and potatoes. Ed, you know this stuff. And I would have said, okay, well, vegetables, sure, carrots, peas, potatoes, bananas, oranges, no problem. Of course I eat from the plant kingdom. Animals, animal foods, well, I got my orange cheese, I got my yops, yogurt drinks, I got my, chicken breasts, ground beef, and pork sausages. No problem. Yeah, get lots from that. Bacteria. What do you mean by bacteria? Do I eat bacteria? Well, these are our fermented foods, and I didn't eat a whole lot of fermented foods growing up. Again, I had my orange cheese, I had my strawberry yogurt drinks, these kinds of things. Whether there was really that diversity and quality of living bacteria, this idea of the probiotics, right? This is really truly what the bacterial kingdom provides, and something that's truly missing in our modern diet. Since the industrialization of our food system, one of the big directions we've gone off is having eliminated bacteria from our food, from pasteurization, from canning, whereas before, it used to be essential, right? It was part of our food preservation. Before refrigeration, we had to preserve the harvest through fermentation, but it played so much more of a role and so much more of a function. Not to mention flavor, right? Some of the most enjoyable foods that we all love, regardless of the culture. Again, every culture has its own culture, fermented foods, and usually those are the delicacies, right? Korea might be kimchi. And some of the European cultures, it's their cheeses, and we all have our own preferences. So it provides our probiotics, these good bacteria, which we know are the foundation of our digestion, so good for digestive health, good for our immune system, and now there's a lot of research suggesting about how it's actually really even good for mental and emotional health. Just our state of well-being, that gut-brain connection. These guys are so key and critical in there. So bacteria is another thing that we need to bring in. And a diversity since we've moved away from bacteria, and we live in this kind of, antibacterial phobic kind of society, right? It's like, kill bacteria, you need to kill the germ, the microbe. They say modern humans living in industrialized lifestyles, we not only have less bacteria within our guts, within our own ecosystems, our own microbiome, but much less diversity as well, not the same species. So we know our polar bears and all these species out there going extinct. Same thing is happening in our guts within the human microbiome as well. So how do we reclaim that? Well, fermented foods is one of the best. So welcome, we're just talking about the 4 food groups. Yeah, all good. So plants, animals, bacteria, and the last one, fungi, mushrooms, right? A whole kingdom that we're going to explore. We're going to look at how to bring those in. So as a kingdom, it's been a food group, but it's also been a source of medicine. So does anybody know Otzi the Iceman? Yeah, Ed, just a couple of people nodding their heads. So he was discovered, he's the oldest, most complete human specimen that we have, right? This guy was he's called the Iceman. He got basically flash frozen in ice, and he was discovered, and they still had everything on him, the most intact human specimen. And on him, he had 2 different types of species of fungi that he was using, functionally, as well as for medicine as well. So again, as a kid, I might be thinking, well, once in a while I'll let white button mushrooms on my pizza. It's probably as far as it went. Of course, within the fungi kingdom we have single-celled yeast as well, but there's those culinary mushrooms, things like our white buttons, our portobellos, brown buttons. But the kingdom is deep and vast. There's so much more culinary mushrooms that we can access, again for flavor, but also for their medicine, their benefits, right? And there's also the medicinal mushrooms. If you haven't heard of medicinal mushrooms, you will be very familiar. You're going to taste them, enjoy them, and very different than your regular button mushrooms. This, in fact, this is a medicinal mushroom. This is called reishi, and this is it. It's just been dried. Instead of growing from the ground and having gills, this grows from a tree and has pores. So another name for them is called polypores. And it's said about reishi that it is the most studied herb in the world, right? More than ginseng, more than nettles, more than peppermint. There's more research, more information about the benefits of reishi, which has been revered in the Orient, for instance, for hundreds of years. They've known, been working with this, and it's claimed to have, not just claimed, but it has so many benefits for different body systems, organs, like the immune system. Like for instance, it is what they call an immunomodulator. So let's say your immune system is low, it can help bring it up. Let's say your immune system is high, overactive, like an autoimmune condition, can help bring it down. So within the Chinese system that has thousands of herbs in it, it's within a class what's called the superior herbs. And there are maybe about 72 of these superior herbs within, thousands within that system that have just the potency and the intelligence to help modulate different systems, right? So, blood sugar, again, you could have too high, too low, helps balance that. So I'll just pass that around. Another name for it is, the Latin name is Ganoderma lucidum. Ganoderma means shiny skin. So another name for it is varnished conch, which you can see. It almost looks like it's been shellacked or varnished. But that is the famed reishi mushroom. We'll pass that around. And that's a very powerful ally to get into your everyday. It's a tonic herb. Again, these superior herbs, you can take them daily. You guys come to this gym, right, to tonify the muscles, to build yourself. So it is with food, right? So it is with our medicines. We can help boost and build up our immune system over time by taking different herbs. And this one not only has those physiological benefits, but also there's a tagline that reishi helps protect the academic from their own mind. It's known as the herb of spiritual potency. So it does also have a really nice, calming, relaxing effect, as some herbs do. And that one is a great one for anxiety. Not that you need to have anxiety at all, but if some does, that may be a herb you can use. And just provides that just kind of extra balance, calm, and support in your day. So the question is, how do you get these different types of foods in, right? Well, we talked about bacteria and fermented foods, plants, we'll explore that. I guess one thing I'll just invite you to think about as you think about in your life, what types of foods are you consuming? begin to think about diversity within all these kingdoms. We talked about a little bit with bacteria, right? We need all these different types of bacteria, and different ferments have different types of bacteria, and they have different benefits. They may live in different parts of our body. Different types of fungi, huge, massive kingdom that we're still beginning to explore. Animal foods, I mean, most of us typically eat within a very narrow range of animal foods. And within that, of our chicken, we mostly just eat the breasts or the drumsticks, or, of course, you know, I'm sure this crowd, we're eating the whole chicken. But there's this whole trend of, you know, bone broths, right? Or eating the organ meats. So we want to think not only diversity of different animals, because there's different diversity of nutrition there, but then, you know, the whole food, literally, right? And in our industrialization, our kind of modern food system, we've really moved away from a traditional diet. And a natural diet was not only to honor the entire animal and use it all, but also just to make use of it. That was valuable food. And now we're disconnected from our food, and, well, I'll just go for chicken wings, right? But there's so much more to that animal and that it offers that we've really been missing out on nutrients. Plants as well, huge diversity. For a number of years, I was a vegetarian, and then I got into vegan and raw food, and I've explored lots of different diets. You know, my eventual conclusion is, in fact, we're omnivores. So we need to eat from every single kingdom, and sometimes we might gravitate one or the other, right? You know, where the majority, maybe we're eating mostly plants, maybe we're eating mostly animal foods, but there really is a balance here. And then, of course, we do need to include these kingdoms, which will often help us digest plants and animals, right? The bacteria is going to help digest some of those fibers, or pre-digest, let's say, dairy, to make it more digestible. So plant kingdom as well, that's something that we really want to expand our diversity that we're pulling from. Most people, you know, for plant foods, it's wheat, corn, and soy. And of course, we can further go down the list of, you know, banana, orange, but very little diversity that's actually out there and available to us. I don't know what the statistics are, but, you know, even in the most remote of, like, northern Canada, you think of, like, well, there's not really much up there in the tundra. You know, how much plant diversity? You know, they were getting even more plant diversity than we were as humans. And one of the best ways to begin to explore that and getting that diversity of what's called the phytonutrients, right? And if you see, read an article, or you hear on the news, you know, like, new chemical found in broccoli known to cure cancer, or whatever it is, science just keeps coming and discovering more about our food that has these benefits. That's as they begin to explore the plant kingdom and what's known as the phytochemistry. So a great way to do that is getting into the world of herbalism. I've been exploring the world of food and nutrition for a long time. And as I was going to nutrition school, I had other friends, they were going and studying herbology. And to me, in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm focusing on nutrition. I'm gonna be a nutritionist, you know, and they're herbalists. And that was a mistake. And only later did I realize and open up to this world of, like, I can get into herbs too. I don't need to do a 4-year degree. That's not the point. I can just start with one. And I'd really like to encourage you to do that today, just to begin to explore the world of herbalism for nourishment and greater diversity. And no better way to get all these different types of foods, as I'm going to show you, into what's called an elixir. So an elixir might conjure up different ideas and images of what that is in your mind, but basically I like to describe it as a vehicle for the delivery of your own food and medicine, right? Your daily herbs, your daily tonics, your nourishment. And that's why I wanted to start with drinks that maybe you already consume, right? Maybe you already have tea, you have coffee, you have a smoothie. You might have like more of an electrolyte kind of sports drink. We're going to look at those different types of things and how do you just simply upgrade that? How do you add in more nutrient density? I used to have an approach to nutrition which came out of my journey, which was to, like, you know, really extreme, overnight, cut things out, flip my life upside down, you know, like this, no, black, white, and ultimately you might have some success with that. I definitely, you know, was on and off with it, but it's much easier, more successful for yourself, your clients, this idea of adding in, right? And then also upgrading. So we have coffee, you might enjoy that. How can we upgrade the coffee? It's not like don't ever have it. How can we upgrade it to something more amazing, and how can we add in other herbs that are supportive to the immune system. So you don't have to change what you're doing. It's about adding in and upgrading. All right, and welcome. And feel free to ask questions anytime. Super informal. We're just going to get into making a few drinks. This idea of how you can upgrade what you're doing every day. So, does anybody make a morning coffee right now? Is that part of your ritual? It's all good. I mean, my wife, she loves coffee. For me, it's not really my thing. I don't know. I just don't really like it, don't really work with it. But I get it. And I've got my own drinks that I kind of do in that same way. You know, mate works for me. I like mate. Not every day, but once in a while, it's good. I enjoy it. So whether you're working with coffee, the idea, has anyone heard the term bulletproof? I'm sure you have. I know Jason works here. He's like really into bulletproof. And the idea of the bulletproof is taking a coffee. So again, they upgrade the quality. So it's, you know, mycotoxin free, it's shade grown, it's this, it's that. So it's upgraded quality, and then they're adding more to it. So it's the same principle. It's upgrade and adding in. One of their kind of key distinctions is they'll add in a fat. So not just, oh, I'll put a little bit of creamer. It's like, no, we're putting in like tablespoons of butter into coffee. And people, yeah, that's what you do. And yeah, people love it, right? And it provides more energy, more nourishment, you know, brain, you know, fuel, because that's primarily what the brain is working off. And we can feed it those good fats every day. So you can work with that, and it's the same idea. I'll show you a coffee alternative, because that, you know, some people want to kind of move away from the caffeine and the stimulation that comes there. But just know, whatever it is, you can work with it as you like. So one of my favorites for creating a coffee-like flavor in terms of its, you know, that nice, deep, dark flavor, but without the jitters, right? I mean, that's one of the, I just can't handle coffee. And me personally, again, other stimulants, I'm not against stimulants, just coffee for me, too much of an effect on the nervous system. So there's, you can make a coffee alternative with dandelion. So dandelion we know to be really great for the liver. So you're actually now getting good herbal medicine in the form of a coffee-like beverage. So what we're gonna do here, and actually, maybe let me just back up. Whenever you're creating, whatever you're creating, with water as the ingredient, let's say you're going to make yourself a pot of coffee. Instead of water, you can make yourself a pot of coffee with reishi mushroom. And this is just another version, another form of reishi. Reishi grows on every continent in the world and comes in all kind of shapes and sizes and different forms. We have another one right here. So again, something like reishi that's got all these immune supportive benefits that helps kind of calm and center and focus the mind, helps regulate blood sugar, so many benefits to it. Again, that if you create a tea as your base, now instead of just creating regular coffee with water, so do nothing else. Just create a mushroom tea with, say, reishi, or another one here is called chaga. Chaga is another medicinal mushroom, very, very high in lots of different minerals, like zinc, chromium, copper, manganese, very, very high in minerals, as well as very high in antioxidants. Again, it's one of these immune system like boosters, modulators. So you can create a medicinal mushroom tea and then make your coffee. Yeah, really good question. So let me pass around the chaga. And just as you felt that reishi mushroom, right? It's tough, it's woody. Now these aren't going to have the same flavor as, you know, your white button mushrooms, right? So if you're like, yeah, I don't like the flavor of mushrooms, this doesn't taste like mushrooms in that sense at all. It's got kind of an earthy, slightly woody, slightly bitter flavor. The chaga has even got slight hints of almost like vanilla. It's almost like an earthy vanilla tea. So you brew that up, and what's got to be done? When we're making herbal teas, you know, most of us, we get a little tea bag, you just put it into hot water. That's what's called steeping. And if you have something like peppermint, that's a leaf, very easily to extract the flavor and the properties out of a peppermint tea or a tea leaf. Where if it's a root or a bark or a mushroom, where it's a lot tougher and more woody, you got to do what's called a decoction. So you would never just take a big giant piece like this. It would come into slices, or you'd break it up, and then you put it into water. You bring your water to a boil, and then you let it simmer. So that's what a decoction is. And that simmer, imagine it's kind of like a washing machine in that sense of, the action of the boiling, the heat begins to pull out those properties, and it begins to create that tea and pull the medicine out. And you can actually reboil it 2 or 3 times. There's a lot of medicine in there that can be pulled out through the decoction.
How long would you boil it for?
Yeah, good question. At least 10-15 minutes, but you'll begin to see that color will start to change. You'll be able to taste the flavor in there. So the longer you go, the stronger it'll get. Yeah, but 10-15 minutes is enough. Yeah.
Well, I always boil turmeric root.
Oh yeah.
So, but I never understood what's the timing on it. But 15
Yeah.
minutes to 30 minutes to start to get a really
For
good
your
color.
turmeric,
So
is that
can
how
you mix
long?
it with a reishi? 'Cause I have
Yeah.
these too.
Yeah, absolutely. So great, wonderful. I love that idea. Now you can do a reishi turmeric tea, for instance. So you can begin to add different herbs to it. Yeah.
Is there too long to do it? Like I've generally done it in a slow cooker overnight, so it's
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That you can absolutely do that for sure. So the longer it goes, the stronger it is, just the more it'll pull out. Yeah. Is another question back here? No? No? All right, all good.
You ruined the pot.
With the turmeric, yeah, it'll stain it for sure.
Are there any side effects?
There are some contraindications with some medicines. Like for instance, if you're on blood pressure medication, you might need to research that because it does affect lower blood pressure. Again, it's one of these modulators, so if it's high blood pressure, to help bring it down, and then that way there's just the odd thing you might need to check in around. Yeah, but generally the tonic herbs are very safe to take every day. And that's why it's a great place to start. And I mentioned in exploring the world of herbalism, right, there's thousands of herbs. And if you really want to know Chinese herbs, you got to go to school for 8 years and study it down to the detail. Whereas the tonic herbs are a great place to start. They're fun, they're easy to learn. And there's this fantastic book here called The Ancient Wisdom of Chinese Tonic Herbs, Ron Teagarden. Some herbs, for instance, let's take blood pressure again, right? You might have really, really low blood pressure, or maybe it's really high. You go to a Chinese doctor, they're going to prescribe you a certain herb to drive it one way or another, right? It's like, oh, it's too low. We need to give you a herb to force your body in this way to bring the blood pressure back up. But you wouldn't take that forever. That's just at a certain time until your body's back in balance, then you're off on that. Whereas these tonic herbs, again, have compounds where the body can do either or, depending on what it needs to. So that's a good book to reference. All right, so the first thing, super simple, super easy. I love mushrooms. I'm a big fan of medicinal mushrooms, and I think they're kind of one of the most overlooked, easy, accessible medicines that you can just add in. I've met people come into our store who, kids, go to school, right? It's like it seems to be a germ factory. Your kids, they get sick all the time. Literally just by giving them a little bit of mushroom tea, or you can even, if you're making like a soup or a broth or a stock, you can actually add in a little bit of these mushrooms. Let it cook with all the vegetables. You strain it out afterwards, and they say, yeah, like my kid wasn't getting those colds as often. So lots of benefits to that. And easy to add in. So as a base, we're going to say brew up a mushroom tea, and then you can now create your morning coffee or your morning tea with that. In fact, there's a company out there, they claim to have the healthiest coffee in the world. And do you know why it's supposedly the healthiest coffee in the world? It's because it's reishi coffee. All they do is they give you regular, like not even organic, like nothing else about it, just swaggy coffee, and they put reishi in it. And they put this claim, it's the healthiest coffee in the world. But you can make it yourself, just as easy and just as simply. So you can work with the whole mushroom. You can also get extract powders. So for instance, again, we've said that this has to be broken down, it has to be extracted, all those properties pulled out. There are companies now that do these extractions where they'll make that tea and then dry it back down to a powder. So it's just quick and easy. You can just add it to your smoothie, your soup, your tea, whatever it is on the go, and you don't have to do that pre-boiling. This is very much what you'd find in like little capsules, right? But I like to go bulk, and it's a much more kind of efficient way to do it. And then that one has 5 different medicinal mushrooms in it. So not just reishi, chaga. Another one here is called cordyceps, and I think the other one that's in there is lion's mane. blend. They all have similar benefits, but slight differences. Cordyceps, for instance, was popularized in the 80s by the Chinese Olympic national team. Was one year where they just won all these records, and they're like, "Whoa, what are you guys doing?" And they credited the cordyceps, use of cordyceps, to that year that they're taking. All right, so I've got some reishi tea here. I've already brewed some up, and we're going to show you how to create an elixir with it. So we're going to start off with something, again, in the realm more like a coffee, but it's going to have a base of medicinal mushrooms. Instead of coffee, we're going to use Dandy Blend, which is, again, just a dandelion extract. It also has in it barley, rye, and chicory. There's no gluten, so don't worry about that if something's sensitive to gluten. Those are kind of extracts that when added to hot water, it just dissolves right into it and creates this nice kind of dark, earthy, coffee-like flavor, but it's now really supportive to the liver. All right, so let's say you got your big mug, your 12-ounce cup there. We're going to do about a tablespoon of the Dandy Blend. And there are many different brands. You can go to community, different places that have these types of coffee-like substitutes. We're going to do a double batch, so putting in 2 tablespoons of that. Next, I know a lot of people really enjoy more of a creaminess to your beverage, right? Whether it's that coffee, that tea, making it more like a latte. I enjoy that as well. And one of the quickest, simplest, easiest ways is to add in coconut butter. So we have at the Light Cellar, we have something called an elixir bar, right? So I mentioned the elixir bar. The concept of an elixir is an alchemical vehicle for the delivery of food and medicine. So imagine it like we're creating in the most tasty of ways. It's a combination between your smoothie and your tea or coffee, right? It's like it can give you energy, but it's also really going to nourish you and support you. So we bring those two concepts in what we call an elixir. So we've got our kind of herbal type qualities from the reishi, from the Dandy Blend. Now for more of that food value that's going to give us those good calories, those good fats, one of the best, quickest, easiest ways is like a tablespoon of coconut butter. Coconut butter is different than coconut oil in the sense that it's still the whole food, right? So to create coconut oil, just like you would say create almond oil, you'll take that almond or the coconut and you press it and you extract out the oils, and then you're left with the fiber that's been removed. Coconut oil, as you know, it's got that good high heat tolerance, good fats, can be good for cooking. The coconut butter, since it's basically the whole coconut ground up, so it's still got all the fiber. So instead of like almond oil, it'd be more like your almond butter, of which you wouldn't want to at least fry with it because of that fiber, it would just burn. But if you mix it with water, it's fantastic. Like a tablespoon in a cup of water, or even a little bit less, instant coconut milk, right? So anything you add to it instantly creams it. So we've got about a tablespoon or 2 of that. So that's going to give us that nice creamy base to this drink here. We're going to, just for good measure, just for fun, we're going to add in a little bit more of the medicinal mushrooms. So this is our 5 mushroom blend with the extra extracts of all those different mushrooms. Something like the lion's mane. I know Jason, who's working here, he did a post recently on his Instagram where his bulletproof coffee in the morning, he's got his big thing of cream or fat that he added into his coffee, and then he had his lion's mane. And lion's mane is a medicinal mushroom that, again, has a lot of these immune benefits, but it's more specific to the brain and to the nervous system. And it's got a compound called nerve growth factor. And they've done a lot of studies showing how it help regenerate the nervous system. So really good one to add in. So we've got that in there. We've got our Dandy Blend, our coconut butter. If we want a little bit of sweetness, that's up to you. You know, you might like your drinks more dark, more bitter. Maybe you like just a touch of sweetness. We're going to do that. Not too much, but a little bit of honey. Honey is one of my favorite sweeteners. Lots of enzymes. It's very natural whole sugar, of course. All right, and that's it. So you could do this very similar. Instead of the Dandy Blend, this still could be your coffee, right? You've brewed it up with mushroom tea. You can add the coconut butter. You can add in the mushroom powder. You can add in honey if you like a little bit of sweetness. Maybe one more I'll just put out there. This one here is called mucuna. Now, this is a bean that actually contains L-dopa, which is the precursor to dopamine. And dopamine, serotonin, all these feel-good chemicals, right? So we can deplete our dopamine through stress. We can also deplete our dopamine that way. Not that anyone in this crowd would do that, but that idea of a dope head, right? It's like they've depleted their dopamine. That's where that term comes from, I believe. So mucuna is a great way to replenish that. All right, so we turn it on. Just inhale that goodness as the steam rises up from your blender. Let's give it a little taste here. All right, pretty good, I'd say. Again, I did keep it a little bit more on the bitter side for you to taste something more like a coffee. So if that's your flavor preference, then you're going to love this. But of course, we could make that more creamy, more sweet. And this works even without the dandy blend. You don't have to go for that dark type flavor. If you wanted to make this chocolate, maybe you want to go more like kind of like a chocolate drink, a hot chocolate. Instead of dandy blend, you could add cacao powder, right? So it'd be the same recipe, mushroom tea with coconut butter with cacao, your choice of sweetener, maybe add a little vanilla in there. Now you've got a medicinal mushroom drinking chocolate. All right. Okay, let's give this a little serve up here. We'll see ghee and that idea of the bulletproof, or what a friend of mine likes to describe as butterproof, because lots of butter goes in, or coconut butter to cream it. And one herb that I think works quite well with the green tea is pine pollen. So pine pollen, that's in season right now. So this is something that you'll see, you probably noticed maybe on the tops of your car or even in a puddle, there's like that like a film of like white yellow powder. It's happening right now. And the pines are dropping their pine pollen, and this is a nutritive, and it's actually in fact an androgen, and it's used to just kind of boost and stimulate growth in the ecosystem. So right in spring, these things are there to kind of give it that energetic reproductive boost and growth. And turns out we humans can also utilize and benefit from those compounds as well. So pine pollen contains the highest amount of bioidentical testosterone. So if you're needing or wanting to boost testosterone, pine pollen is a fantastic way to do that. All right. Okay, so now this next one here, I've had a little, it's just mildly fermented. We talked a little bit about our four kingdoms, our bacteria. I teach a whole 3-hour class on how you can create fermented sodas. So this one here is a fermented soda that I've tried to create recreate like a lemon lime type flavor. So it's lemon juice. The culture that's fermenting it is called water kefir. I'm sure you're familiar with milk kefir. And kefir, whether it's milk or water kefir, that is, and it's the same for kombucha, it's something called a SCOBY. You heard that term before? A SCOBY, maybe in relation to kombucha. How they create that is it's a culture that ferments black tea and sugar. It's typically how kombucha is made. And this is actually an acronym that means a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. So it's good bacteria, it's good yeast, and they digest the sugars in the black tea, and then you get your kombucha. So what I made is not a kombucha from a kombucha SCOBY, but from what's called water kefir. And kombucha, they look like these kind of flat, like gelatinous pancakes, mistakenly called a mushroom. They're not a mushroom. They're a SCOBY. They're bacteria and yeast. These water kefir grains, as they are described as, they're just like these little gelatinous-like blobs, and they're bacteria and yeast that are beneficial, probiotic. And you can take them and you can ferment all kinds of stuff. Fun thing about water kefir is you can actually just ferment sugar water. So you can choose any type of sweetener. I like to use honey. You could use a whole cane sugar or palm sugar. And you can flavor it any different way. So we create like root beer, we create a chaga cola. these old-fashioned recipes that were once upon a time fermented, that were herbal, right? A ginger ale, a ginger beer had medicinal properties to it, and it was naturally fermented versus what they've come today, where it's forced carbonations, horrible sugars. They add in all these acids, and I mean, you guys have all tasted the kombucha. It's that kind of idea of where we can go now. So I chose this as something to demonstrate. So just basically squeezed in some lemon into a water kefir, just sweetened it a little bit, and it's just slightly fermented. So it's not as bubbly as the kombucha or as sour. So you can do it either with a fermented base or really, let's just say lemon water, right? You're doing a workout, you probably heard that, lemon, you'll actually get more hydrated drinking lemon water than you will just straight water, right? Even a little pinch of salt. So it's the idea of the electrolytes. So this is, in its crudest form, is like an upgrade on the Gatorade. And I'm sure, hopefully we're not even at that stage. It's just, we're moving up the spectrum. So, lemon water, that's great, that's wonderful. Wanted to show you how you could even upgrade that some more and build in some of these different superfoods and herbs that have more nutrient density to them. So we could start with a different kind of herbal tea, but I haven't done that. It's just straight lemon water. Next, this is one of my favorites here. It's called sea buckthorn. This guy grows all over the place. If you're driving down Crowchild Trail, you'll see sea buckthorn. The road is lined with it. Extremely nutritious berry, high in omega-7, really high in beta-carotene, lots of vitamins, lots of minerals. It also has a very nice tart flavor to it. So it's a puree, it's a fruit puree that we can actually just add in just straight into that. And two of our top selling drinks at the Light Cellar have this sea buckthorn puree in it. It's fantastic, super refreshing, and I love that it's local. It grows around here. We can go out and we can pick this and we can start incorporating it into our drinks. Yeah, it comes off of a bush. It's generally quite thorny, sea buckthorn, real hardy tree, but there's masses of orange berries. So you'll see, again, Crowchild Trail, there's a lot all along there where the berries, I mean, no one picks them. No one even knows they exist, that they're here. And you'll see these nice little berries that are on there in just large clumps, and you can go ahead and pick all those off. Of course, this is just the easy version of a puree, but when you get it, you might, I would probably throw them all into a blender, juice it, and strain it. That's a good way to get the juice, or you can even go through kind of a colander just to get some of the pulp out. So there we go. Instantly, we've added that in. We've got our nice sea buckthorn, so that's going to add some flavor as well as some good deep nutrition. Next, and these are all optional, right? You can add, one thing that I like is called schizandra. Schizandra, really interesting fruit. It's a fruit that's also considered a herb. And again, it's one of these ones, these top tonic herbs from Chinese herbal medicine. And it's known as what's the 5-flavor fruit. So we'll just pass this around and you can just have a little put a little sprinkle on your hand. You can have a little taste of that. Woo! It is strong. It's got a lot of flavor to it. So see if you can pick out all 5 flavors. Predominantly, it's more sour. It's also very astringent. You'll notice as soon as it goes on your mouth, it's kind of like lemon. You begin to salivate, right? So it's also going to help increase that hydration. It has astringent-like qualities, which helps kind of tone your organs and skin. It's what's known as a phase 2 detoxifier for the liver. So your liver, when it comes in contact with toxins or just byproducts of metabolism, there's 2 phases for it to be detoxified out of the body, and schizandra helps with both of those. Just a little bit. It's so strong, right? Yeah. In Chinese herbalism, probably the 2 top fruits or foods, actually, even, are goji berries and schizandra. And they're both berries. They're both quite well revered for their nutritional as well as their medicinal properties. They've been personified as, whoa, that's a lot. They're not big.
No.
Yeah, there you go. Well, enjoy. Goji's been personified as the princess, right? And it's also known as the happy berry. They say the Chinese, just a small handful of goji will keep you youthful, keep you happy. And the Schisandra has been personified as the queen, this beautiful queen. And so there's something out there called the Schisandra Challenge, where you take it for 90 days, and it'll give you a glowing skin and transform you, they say. So this is a good, easy way to get that in. All right, so here's basically what could be a lemon lime, Gatorade type of drink. We've made it ourselves. You just take water or herbal tea, add in a bit of fresh lemon. You can do a little squeeze of salt if you want. And then we poured in a little bit of sea buckthorn, a little bit of Schisandra, sweeten it to taste, and now you have a nice refreshing drink. That's tart, and again, like the properties of lemon, more hydrating than if you're just drinking water. You're getting those electrolytes, you're getting those minerals, getting that deep nutrition, these antioxidants. And the pigments as well, right? We've got really a lot of deep orange pigment, those beta carotene. And there's the clipboard. All right, let's serve this up. Anyone have any questions so far at all?
Thank you.
All right. If you want, you could add a little cayenne to that, if you really want the fire and the heat.
What's the sweet flavor in that? Is that the lemon?
Yeah, so I basically did like a lemonade. So lemon, water, and honey. So that was the base. Again, you could do a little pinch of salt. That's your kind of like real hydrating electrolyte drink. Then we added in the sea buckthorn and the Schisandra, just for deeper nourishment, more of those medicinal compounds. So that's the idea. How can we take those things that we're already consuming every day? Tea, coffee, maybe these types of more refreshing drinks, summertime, post-workout, and get more deeper nutrition. And this idea of getting more deeply into the plant kingdom, and that we can do that through herbalism. There's so much out there.
How was the SCOBY in here? The yeast
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's a really good question. So the SCOBY, so what you do, and to really go into the process, you do what's called we don't have time for it, but we do what's called a primary ferment. So you have your sugar water that you would add the SCOBY to. In the case of kombucha, it ferments in a tank, and then you separate that out, and then you keep the culture and you add more sugar water, and you keep doing that. But once it's done its primary ferment, then you transfer it to a bottle. And then that's where you kind of flavor it and do these other things. So the culture, even though it's in there, the SCOBY's not. So I poured in kefir water that had already fermented once, so it had been through its primary ferment.
kefir water in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I also have some chocolate for you to sample too, so I'll break some of that out. And if you want to taste more, I know we have that all finished up, but if you want a little bit more of the drink, definitely come on up. We have classes. We're just about to finish the rest of our June calendar, but September to June, we offer all different kinds of classes, again, really focusing on you learning how to craft your own food and medicine. Elixirs are just one example, fermented foods, fermented drinks, chocolate making, and during the summer, really excited because we have a number of different wild food experts who are going to be taking us out into, Edworthy Park and Kananaskis, places around town and out of town, where you can begin to identify, something like pine pollen. It's everywhere. It's in massive abundance right now, but if you don't know, you don't know, right? Sea buckthorn as well. There's so much out there, and great opportunity to really empower yourself and connect with nature, right? It's you guys are into natural movement. My thing is natural eating, right? We covered the natural food guide, and there's a lot of depth. It's very simple on the surface, but how can we go deeper into that to really, reclaim and support our health? So we offer classes. If you want, you can sign up for our newsletter. It's how we make money. We sell your information. No, I'm just joking. We send it out maybe twice a month just to kind of update you on classes. They do fill, so it's good to kind of get in there first if you're interested. And when you sign up, you get a free video e-course diving into the world of superfoods. It's me in my kitchen. We go through like 8 or 9 different videos and not only what are the benefits of some of different herbs and superfoods, but ultimately how do you use them. And there's that, as well as I think that's all. I think there's a card here. We'll sample some chocolate. We've got the water kefir here for you. We'll just be hanging out, so feel free to ask any more questions. Thanks for coming. I know it was like 2:12 and it was like, all right, Anton and Celine. Yeah, I thought it was just going to be the two of us, so it was good. I'm glad you all came. I hope you got some benefit. You enjoyed the drinks. Feel free to hang out and ask me any questions, but enjoy the world of elixirs. This is just kind of scratching the surface. Wanted to make it as easy and accessible as possible. It's probably things you're already doing, but how are those simple, easy add-ins and upgrades that we can do? So thanks for Ed and Intrinsy for hosting me as well.
Excellent.
All right.
presentation.
Oh, good. All right.